Siphathisima wethu sinamkele kwisiqendu sethu sale veki senkqubo yakho Yilungelo Lakho, it's your right. Siniphakela ngqo apha kumahamba phambili, that is SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Igama lami ke mnandi ngoSiphiwo Nzawumbi. Kuthabatha ke inxaxheba yethu ungasala umnxeba apha kunombolo yethu yesiqhelo, and that is 011 714 6918 and 6919. You can also send us your emails to consumer@sabc.co.za. And for those of you who are active on social media, you can go to our Facebook page, and that is Yilungelo Lakho, or rather go on Twitter, and that is @SpeechNzawumbi. Don't forget to hashtag Yilungelo Lakho so that we'll be able to read your tweets during the show. Well, Mzansi, good afternoon. Now, last week we brought you a discussion looking at the changes to the Road Accident Fund and how they will affect you. And today we'll bring you part 2 of that topic. Namhlanje kusijonga ukuba kwenzeka ntoni na kwiimali zabo abafake imbango ku-Road Accident Fund. Nethi imali yabo ifakwe kwingxowamali elawulwa ngamagqwetha, i-trust ke ngelasemzini. For many accident victims, the road to laying their hands on the final Road Accident Fund payout can be full of frustrating twists and puzzling turns, most especially to consumers whose claims have been settled after years of waiting, but are only allowed a stipend because the entire amount is placed in trust. Yilungelo Lakho visited a disgruntled family that finds the experience unbearable and very difficult. Have a look at this.
Ngelizinga ziphakame ngayo ingozi zendlela kweli yiyo loo nto intlawulo yenziwa yi-Road Accident Fund kumaxhoba ixhome kangaka. Ngo-2013 i-RAF yabhatala phesheya ko-22 billion yeerandi ihlawula amaxhoba engozi yezithuthi kulo lonke eli. Oko kusenza ngethemba nangenjongo yokuthuthuzela nokuvala amanxeba amaxhoba entlekele lolu hlobo. Kodwa kusapho lwakwaSeruwe eKatlehong, uhlawulo konyana wabo kulo nyaka upheleyo akwenzanga nanye kwezo. Ujabulani wenzakala elisweni engozini yemoto, emva kokufaka ibango lentlawulo i-Road Accident Fund yawuhlawula lo monakalo. Nangona ufumana isithonga semali, kusekude ukuba iphose lokulibala intlekele abagaxaleka kuyo. Usapho lwakhe luthi aluyazi uba kutheni befumana i-1,500 rand kuphela ngenyanga, emva kokuba i-RAF ikhuphe imali esondele kwi-2 million yeerandi.
Ku-Road Accident Fund the way isebenzele ngakhona siyabonga kakhulu, kodwa kumaqwetha ethu asebenza nanga kahle.
Wathi kutheni?
Ngoba imali iphephe basibonise lona, bathe imali kuphume 1.8 million and then inamasenti ngaseqeleni. And then bathi imali izoya ku-trust. So mangibuza lapho ukuthi maya ku-trust izidingo zethu zona, bathi no sizokhulumisana ne-trust ngento lezi esizifunayo.
Mhla kuqunjelwa ityala likaJabulani, inkundla yenza umyolelo othi imali yakhe mayingaphathwa mntu ngomnye, koko mayilawulwe yi-trust kuphela. I-trust yenzeka xa umntu othile inikwe igunya kwasemthethweni lokulawula impahla okanye imali yomnye umntu ngenjongo zokufeza imfuno zalowo ungakwaziyo ukuyilawula ngokwakhe. Umyolelo onjalo uqhelekile, ingakumbi xa kubandakanya umntu ongaphantsi kweminyaka ye-18 okanye ongabonisi sakhono sokuphatha imali ngobunono. Kodwa usapho lwakwaSeruwe luyabuza ukuba njani, kuba uJabulani noneminyaka engama-26 akabonakalisi ezo mpawu. Luthi aluyazi ukuba inkundla yambona njani ukuba akakwazi ukuphatha imali engaka. Loo nto izise ubunzima kuba xa befuna imali yokulungiselela uJabulani kubethwa intonga nabalawuli betrust.
Sathi indlu siyayijabulela, wathi no iyadura. Sabuza okay, sifanele sithole indlu yamalini, wathi 250,000. Question ukuthi indlu 250,000 sizoyithola kuphi la, ngoba ayikho indlu ebiza 250 unless i-RDP.
Ujesu uthi zange ixoxo nabo indaba yokumisela i-trust, beva kusithiwa kufuneka imisiwe ukuze ilawule imali kaJabulani, kwaye nemithetho eza kulawula le trust zange bayixelelwe. Ngoku baxinge edakeni abazi ukuba bamlungiselele njani uJabu, kuba ngoku intanga yokuzimela azifunele indlu. Umama kaJabulani uthi into ebuhlungu yokuba le trust ilawulwa ngumuntu ongenavelwano.
Ukuya ngami bengifuna iphume ku Bruma Trust. Yeah, noma bangasitholela enye trust ezokhona ukuthi masi ikhala kuyo i-understand ukuthi siyakhala.
Ukudideka kunye nokungayiqondi indlela i-trust esebenza ngayo kuxhaphakile. Izityholo zokuba abantu abalawula izimali ze-trust bayazifihla kubaninizo azinqabanga kumajelo eendaba. Uluntu olurhanela unyawo lwemfene ngendlela imali zabo eziphethwe ngayo bangafaka izikhalazo kumagosa enkundla ephakamileyo, i-Master of the High Court ngolwasemzini, nalapho ezo zikhalazo ziya kuqwalaselwa. Kuvuyisile Mdoda, Yilungelo Lakho, eRhawutini.
Again, to help us tackle today's topic on road accident fund trusts, where monies of some beneficiaries have to be placed, and the rights of the claimants. Let's welcome Angelique Visser from the Fiduciary Institute of the Southern Africa, a body that regulates basically the trust fund managers. Sibena gift Gaba yena oliqwetha sina Bernard Apane rather ophuma pha office ye Master of the High Court. Gentlemen and a beautiful lady, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with basically the insert. You saw the needs and the complaints of the family of the beneficiary. What are your views, Gift, on the insert?
Just on face value, there's a lot of things ezingenzakalanga kahle. First things first, ngibona ngathi ifamily azange male in a family ba engage and try ukuthi bayenze family understand the process of indaba ye trust ukuthi iqala kanjani, and then imali on the trust is administer kanjani. So ngibona ngathi batshela ukuthi imali izofakwa ku trust, and then they were not ama basics and the details ukuthi kanjani and so forth. They were not taken through that process.
Check it. Do you feel that the general is basically familiar with how the trust operates, just in general?
I don't think everybody understands exactly how trust operates. So it's important to spend time with the family members and also the victim to explain to them exactly how the trust is managed and also how payments can be made from the trust.
All right, Bernard, your remarks from the insert, on the insert?
Yes, from the master side, I think if any of the family members have got an issue with the trustees, they can approach the master for the master to intervene in the matter, especially where at least I see the family tried to at least have a house of their own, which is a good investment. Normally the master will approve such an investment. It's unfortunate that when a trust is created, the master is not per se involved in the administration. We only supervise, unlike when it is a curatorship, where we have to approve everything. So it is important that the trustees or the lawyers must engage with the family, speak to the family, look at their needs and make sure that they are happy.
Asikasibheka udaba Jabulani's family. Ucabanga ukuthi i-misunderstanding yeyakuphi ngoba umndeni uthi abathola 1.5 and bacabanga ukuthi imali encane kakhulu leyo as compared to the the total claim. Where's the understanding basically when you look at that case?
Normally what happens is there will be a settlement from the road accident fund or from the court. There will be a court order. They will be, say, for instance, 2 million. But from that, there will be a contingency fee for the lawyer. So some of the money is going to be paid to the lawyer, and then the remaining will be administered. When administered, it will be invested, and then from the investment, the family is going to get only the interest earned on the investment. So it's not the whole money that is given to the family, it's the interest that is earned to make sure that the investment goes on to care for the patient for over a long period.
Maybe for the benefit of the viewer, let's start from the beginning. From the point where you were injured, you go and you claim road accident fund, and then they say, okay, but maybe you are entitled to 2 million. How does it go about that the other person can access the funds directly from a road accident fund, and then others are told that their money will be put on the trust? Kwenzekala kanjani ukuthi ugift yenu uyakwazi ukuyithola imali directly, but then Bernard will be told that no, we can't give you the money, we'll have the road accident fund. Kwenzeka kanjani, Bernard?
Into by influence kakhulu ama personal circumstances.
Asiqale nje phezulu ukuthi uyayithola le mali, ummeli wakhe ukutshela ukuthi no, uzothola 2 million njengoba case kaJabulani, bese kwenzakalani ke?
Okay. From a case kaJabulani, like njengoba ngishilo ekuqaleni kuba ama-personal circumstances into determine ukuthi imali ibhadalwa kuwe straight noma to a third person like ummeli. Inangabe ummeli and the court bacabanga ukuthi you don't have the financial aptitude yokuthi umanage ama-affairs wakho economically, that will be one of ama-indicators of trust. That's where you trust, because these are massive amounts la esikhuluma ngayo. I come from a background elokishini kakhulu where uzozwa abantu kuthiwa oh imali yamathambo seyiphelile manje sekahambela phezulu. It's when umuntu was involved kwi-car accident kwenziwa i-payout road accident fund, and then the person blows that money irresponsible and I say the purpose that it was given it for. That's when our trust is very important, to safeguard our interest and to make it a point which this money is invested kahle and then it bears interest, because it's about the big picture. It's just akusinda ukuthi ngithola le mali manje and then that's it. Yes, because it could be that you still need medical care. You see, kusazomela ukuthi lokhu uhamba udoctor and so forth. It could be that paralyzed and awusakhona ukuthi ube in a position ukuthi uzenzele income, awusakhona ukusebenza. So it's about that whole yes, it's about those things.
What other issues do you look at, Bandit?
We also look at the issue of minors.
Okay.
Obviously,
so a minor would be a person between which ages?
A minor between 0 and 18 years
18,
in terms of the age of majority act. Obviously, a minor doesn't have capacity to contract. So obviously, say for instance, there's a settlement for over a lot of money, the minor won't be able to administer that kind of money. So they will need a guardian to assist them. Say for instance, the guardian doesn't have, as he said, the aptitude to be able to administer such kinds of money, then that's where the court will decide to put the money into a trust.
So the judicial court decides?
Yes, the judicial court decides.
Okay.
Yeah, so there will be a court order stating that a trust be formed to safeguard the money.
Okay. And then the trust fund comes. So just take us through some of the issues that you look at, especially where the claimant is dissatisfied with the family of the claimant. Your role basically in this whole process of distributing funds.
Well, throughout the process, we will be approached by the attorney and they'll tell us that X amount needs to be paid into trust. So we will meet with the attorney to draft a trust deed. The attorney will act as the founder of the trust, the person setting it up, and then also the practitioner will be the trustee that's going to manage the funds until the termination date, and then also for the benefit of the beneficiary. So after this trust deed has been drafted, we normally would apply for a court bond. It's almost from an insurance company. It's a insurance policy to make sure that if the funds are mismanaged, that it's safeguarded and it will pay out, so that there's a claim to obviously reinstate them in the fact where they.
Is the claimant involved in this process when you're drafting the trust fund?
When it's drafted, not really that much, because it doesn't stipulate in terms of what needs to be paid. It's only preparing a legal document that needs to be registered with the Master of the High Court. The minute the Master has registered the account and he's satisfied that all the criteria has been met, he would issue a letters of executorship, or letters of authority in the matter of a trust. The letters of authority would authorize the trustee then to transact. He would then contact the attorney and ask them to pay out the funds that they've received from the road accident fund, and would pay it into the bank account of the trust. But it's critical then for the trustee to meet with the family members, or if it's a guardian for the minor, with a guardian, or if it's maybe just somebody that also needs to be supported by the family, to sit together and understand thoroughly what the requirements are. And then the investments will be made in such an extent that it actually provides for that beneficiary. And it's going to be different for each beneficiary, because the amount may be a small amount in one matter, and it may be a very large sum in another, and it may be a very young person or a very old person. So it also just depends specifically on that circumstances.
Right. Okay, let's hold it there for now. I get my way to you're watching Yilungelo Lakho right on SABC 1. Today we're looking at the issues of trust funds. How do you access trust funds? How do you go about having a trust fund? And all these issues that are surrounding trust funds, from the point where you claim your funds from road accident fund to you accessing them, whether you are a minor or a major or a person who's injured beyond board. We have these practitioners right here in studio, and they're going to break down the issue for us. But we'll have more of this after the break. Join us. Ake masikokole kakhona ke mbukeli ukhumbule kuba nawe ke inxalenye yenkqubo yethu ngosala umnxeba phaa kunombolo yethu engu-011 714 6918 and 6919. Rather, can send us an email to consumer@sabc.co.za, or rather just go and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter and then write about Yilungelo Lakho, but first you have to follow. All right, the Twitter handle is @speechinzawumbi, and then you have to hashtag Yilungelo Lakho, and then go to our Facebook page, and that is Yilungelo Lakho. As you see on the screen, we've got a status update that was updated today, so you can go and throw your comments there so that we'll read them during the show. Now, I'll come back to Angelique. Most families feel that if perhaps the victim or the claimant was a minor or is a major, but then the person before the accident was a breadwinner within the family, they had dependents and so forth. Most families would feel that they also, entitled to know the details, the particular details of this trust fund, and also, that perhaps they could have a share because it's a family trust. What do you have to say about that?
Well, the first step would be to look at the court order. If the court order only stipulates that it's for the benefit of the injured person, the trustee will normally draft the trustee to only cater for the benefit of the beneficiary and not for the family. So it's quite critical to understand or to get the right message or information from the court who the fund actually needs to provide for. So normally we would only pay the beneficiary, and the beneficiary would on his side be able to give some of the funds to the family. And if it's a breadwinner, that person would be able then to obviously look after his family. But then a person also needs to make sure that the funds are going to be enough, because if they're only claimed for the person itself and not for the circumstances, the funds are not going to be enough to be able to carry them through a lifetime of maintenance obligations.
So now, once the minor has outgrown or has become a major and then they've outgrown the impediment, do you perhaps counsel them on how to handle these funds?
Yes, we normally do ask for a statement of assets and liabilities, and we go through with a budget to make sure that we pay out enough and also guide them. So there's a lot of financial education going in terms of the process, but once again, the trust will only terminate at the death of the beneficiary. So the maintenance may be more when they're major than what it's when they're minors, but still the trust will carry on until the person's death, and then it will form part of his estate.
Now, what type of needs are covered by the trust fund?
Well, if it's a child, it must probably be school fees, it would be transportation to the school funds, normal for the child to have a normal life. So, medical cost, anything that normally would be paid from, would have been paid and can't be paid for, previously.
And how do you ensure that the monies are used for the intended purposes?
Well, the trustee would normally pay the school directly, and they would also pay most of the service providers directly to also make it easier on the person. And then if an amount is payable to the beneficiary, if it's a major, then that person obviously can deal with it. But if it's a minor, it will pay to the guardian, and the guardian will then make the necessary payments.
Now, how do you ensure that the relationship between the trust and the claimant is transparent, especially when it comes to administering these fees?
Remember, we are the Master of the High Court. We are not per se involved in the actual activity. We rely on the accounts that are lodged by the trustees to the Master, or if there is a complaint from the patient complaining about the way the trustee is administering the estate. Like I said, mainly we do not interfere as much in respect of trust. We interfere where there is curatorship matters, where we require annual accounts to be lodged, where we make prior approvals of all the allowances in respect of the budget. So we are not mainly involved as the Master.
So what are some of the challenges that that trustees face, especially with families who have major financial constraints? They need the money now, especially in the case you saw on the insert. They said that they could only access 1,500 rands, and they believe that they're entitled to much more than that. So what do you look at to to review the process and to say, well, maybe we can add 500 rands more and whatnot?
Yes, yeah, it depends. Yes, it's true. Mainly they look at the interest that is earned. But if it comes to a push that more money is needed, they can even maybe go into the capital, whereby they can apply to the Master to have the Master approve that at least they can use some of the capital to at least allow the patient to live on.
Gives Sizogwena Baba, abantu abaningi, you know, they know about claiming money from the trust fund, I mean from road accident fund. But masekuza kwindaba yama trust fund, abakho clear kakhulu, and then baba nabameli, you know, who represent them, you know, so they'll have must have the High Court, the road accident fund, and then, you know, the trust itself. Nenza kanjani ukwenza ukuthi, you know, the person who comes, especially if they're not familiar with legal terms and the whole process, nenza kanjani to make sure ukuthi they understand?
Okay, I'll try and put things into context and ngizokhulumela in general.
Yes.
Because you see that that's the point of departure, and his step is that's very important with the process. Because you kickstarter yonke into. When the claimant approach a lawyer, you know, that's very important. Because now a lawyer gets that opportunity to build a rapport, ideally in the client, and that's where a lawyer is going to appreciate the circumstances of the client. And now there comes a point where kumele ayenza ama calculations as to indaba yoku quantify claim and so forth. That's where now it gets murky, because ama complications and technicalities abakhona, because you have to take izinto ezifana ne-age into account, ukuthi lo muntu bekasebenza kanjani and so forth, and ama chances akho ukuthi abe successful empilweni abanjani. You know, that's where now you quantify the amount that uzophuma nayo la, that's the amount ozobe kuma prayers wakho ecourt ukuthi ngicabanga ukuthi i-client lami would deserve this amount out of this whole thing yonke. But that's very important as well, ukuthi i-client needs to be involved in this thing, ukuthi imali, because uthatha ama instructions from the client, ukuthi imali efana nale yiyo ngicabanga ukuthi is going to be okay for wena, and so forth. And then you need to also, application yakho, you need to put personal circumstances of a client yakho to the court, because the court izoyenza i-court based on what you've put forward into it.
Right.
So nokuthi izikhiphe i-court i-order yokuthi kube ne-trust is going to be largely affected by what you've put in front of.
Now, Angelique, how long should a trust fund stretch?
Well, that's going to depend on the age of the beneficiary, because a person looks at the life expectancy. Now, it is possible. There's various programs that a person can use, because unfortunately, we never know when a person's going to die. But we look at average ages and know that a trust is going to run for maybe 30 years or 10 years or 5 years. And that will also influence the amount that's going to be paid over on a monthly basis. Because if it's going to run for maybe just 5 years, you know, if it's a very old person, you could pay quite a lot of money, because you don't want to leave the rest, you know, you don't want to have the people to sacrifice during their lifetime and all the funds being left. So you need to kind of a fine balance to make sure that you cater for all the needs, and also, you know, have some extra funds if there's emergencies, because there may be future medical expenses and so forth. But a person can more or less do some calculations to see what would be a reasonable amount to be paid out.
Well, let's see what the viewers have to say. Remember that in order to be a part of our discussion right in studio, the number you can dial is 011 714 6918 and 6919. We're touching on the issue of trust funds, especially from the for the beneficiaries of road accident funds. And it seems right now I've got Lerato who's calling me from Katlehong. Hello, Lerato. Welcome to the show.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Hello, Lerato.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I can't hear Lerato.
Hello.
Lerato. Okay,
Hello,
it seems
I
like
can hear you.
our
Can
problem
I
has
speak?
got a. It seems like we've got a problem with that line. I can't hear Lerato. I can't hear Lerato. So can you please fix the line? Seems like we've got a problem. But right now, let's quickly go for an ad break. Remember that you can call us right in studio. It's 011 714 6918 and 6919. Lerato, if you are watching, you can hear me. Please just call me during the ad break, and then we'll see that we attend to your issue after this break. Stay with us. Well, welcome back. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC. And remember that your participation line right in studio is 011 714 6918 and 6919, just as it's shown on your screen. Remember that before the break, where Lerato was calling me from Katlehong, and Lerato is right now joining us on the line. Lerato, welcome to Yilungelo Lakho.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Kunjani, ma'am?
Ngiyaphila. I-question yami bengifuna ukwazi ukuthi like ubhuti wami uJabulani okay imali under trust ne, but uJabulani like his medically fit is only one eye that was injured, and una 26 years, but still ithe masifike ecourt masibuza ukuthi why imali kufanele ukuthi iye ku trust, and then we were answered that ukuthi imali if isingavumi ukuthi iye ku trust izothathwa yi-road accident fund futhi. That's when ukuthi vele bagcine sebayithatha bayifaka ku trust. Leyo trust, the thing is i-trust ayivumi anything that uJabulane nayo. uJabulane ufuna ifurniture, they choose kule shop le kufanele ukuthi athole ifurniture kuyo. Makafuna impahla bayamchoosela futhi ukuthi kufanele ukuthi athenge kuphi. Last year on December they only gave him 2,000 rands. And then manje ngoJune makafuna impahla bamnika only 1,000 rands. So besifuna ukwazi ukuthi why idingo zakhe zingavumeleki and futhi ukuthi why imali fanele ukuthi iye ku trust and it's only one element.
Okay, do you want to take on that?
Yes, I could
Gift?
take that, but mina inkinga ukuthi
Okay, she's on the line, ungakhuluma nje naye.
Ekugcineni ngizwe
Lerato, ugift ukhuluma nawe sis.
Okay.
Can you uyamuzwa ugift?
Yebo ngiyabona.
Yes,
Yes,
ungakhuluma nawe.
sisilirato khona la ngiqhamuke khona, but I'll try and answer the part le engizwile.
Yeah.
Umenshine ukuthi uJabu ukahle bona bacabanga ukuthi umuntu ofika.
It's only one eye that's injured.
Yes.
Yeah.
Into engicabangayo, into engibone inkinga kakhulu la in this case ukuthi uJabu the client and the attorney yakhe azange kube ne relationship or rapport.
Ba-communicate kahle.
Ngicabanga ukuthi isikhathi bekuyinkinga kakhulu yabona. It seems as if attorney made decisions on behalf of Jabu without ukuthi azi ukuthi ama-circumstances kaJabu.
But now they want to move the money from the trust fund, from that trust fund to another trust fund. And they don't understand Uguti why, because he's 26 years old, it's only one eye that's injured. They believe that perhaps, you know, he could access the fund. When he wants to buy clothes, when he needs furniture, they decide for him. Is that within the premises of your terms?
You should be able to make his own decision in that regard, because they should be able to pay an amount that's going to maintain him, and then he would be able to buy his clothes, and because it's meant for him. A person just needs to look at the amount ultimately in terms of what the court order stipulated, because
they're getting 1,500 rands currently.
But a person, if the amount, for instance, was 2 million rand, 1,500 sounds like a very small amount.
Yeah.
But a person will really need to look at the circumstances. It's difficult just to say it's justified or not justified.
But is he a minor when he's 26? Because I would understand if it was a 15-year-old trying to access the funds. Bernard?
The age of majority is 18 years, so the person is a major. The problem comes when the court orders that, or the medical reports that the person is mentally incapable of managing their affairs. So we need to actually check the court order and see what the court order say. If the court order says that the person is mentally unable to manage their affairs, I think that is what caused the court to decide to create a trust.
So in order for the High Court to get into that decision, what do they have to look at? Do you get a doctor's report?
Yeah, they look at the medical reports.
Okay.
There are mainly the medical reports that they give to the court to say that the person will be able to manage their affairs or not. And then if those medical reports states that the person is unable to manage their affairs, that's when they create a trust or create a curatorship. So in this case, I think what happened is that the person was declared to be mentally incapable of managing their affairs.
At the time.
Yeah, at the
so
time.
What happened if it was a temporal malfunctioning condition, and then 3 months later or 6 months later they recover?
Yes, I think the person, if he feels that he's mentally capable, what he can do is can go back to the doctors or to a psychiatrist to be examined. If he is okay, then he can maybe get a lawyer, go back to court and say to the court, yes, a new medical report, I am okay and I can manage my affairs.
Just to add on that, njengoba shilo Mr. Apane, this person can approach a medical practitioner ozoyenza ama-examinations, and then if une medical report show ukuthi akana psychological defects or anything like that, number one, he can approach the attorney, or he can do that process by approaching a master, because wonke umuntu one interest over this matter can approach a master. Particularly in this case here, Jabu anga approach a master and then inform master ukuthi no, I'm not happy ngale ndlela I-trustee yami ihandle my affairs ami ngakhona, and then it can be taken from there depending on what the court order says, obviously. So there's a law that governs this thing. Akusumuntu othanda ukuthi wenza ngendlela yakhe. No, there's a Trust Property Control Act that regulates ukuthi ama-trustees kumele ahandle kanjani ama-affairs, and that calls on ama-trustees to act with due care, diligence and skill that's expected of a person with abilities anjalo. So I would trustees, they all of a sudden have now these unsurmountable amounts of power.
But in case yakho Jabulani, they feel ukuthi 1.5 loba utholayo mncane kakhulu because he got 2 million. So I mean, he's got other needs. He's 26, is an adult, you know. It could happen that perhaps he's got, you know, other beneficiaries like a child and so forth. So the first step is for them to consult the lawyer.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
They should also go to the trustee and explain, because
They're not happy with the trustee,
then they
with
can,
the trust fund right
then
now.
they can go to the master's court
To the master's
as well,
court.
because I mean they must
And
be
lay a
able to
complaint
review.
with the master to say that this is what we are not happy with the trustees, and then we can intervene, call in the trustee to respond on that, look at all the circumstances, especially the fund, to say how much is the fund. Like I said, it mainly depends on the interest that is earned, because we don't want to go overboard and touch the capital.
All
Because
right.
once you touch the capital, then it is going to diminish, and then the trust fund is going to finish very quickly.
So what happens in a case where the claimant or the beneficiary then dies? They didn't have a child, or they didn't have anyone that they'd registered as beneficiaries. What happens to the fund?
The fund will pay out to the estate, or deceased estate of that beneficiary. So that's why it's important for the beneficiary to also draft a will, because then that person can nominate who the beneficiaries are going to be. If there's no will, it will inherit in terms of the Law of Interstate Succession Act. So there's a formula to calculate who's going to inherit what. The family members will all share in it.
Gift?
Yes, just to add,
Ungathi kubaluleke kangakanani ukuthi abantu badrafte i-will?
it's very important because manje ikunikeza that will ukuthi decide ukuthi izinto zakho, your legacy that you've worked for all your life, ukuthi ziphelele kuphi. So and also ukep indaba yama family disputes. Now ne will things are
helps you.
organized, and then beneficiaries are clearly stated. So indaba, especially la kunama amounts ayimali kakhulu, like for instance umuntu beneficiary from a road accident fund, it's paramount ukuthi lo muntu abe ne will, because nakasekashona lama funds la kubanzima manje ukudefine ukuthi aya kubobani, because all of a sudden manje ngabavela umntwana ngale kuphinde kuvela umntwana ngale and so forth. So it's paramount ukuthi kube khona i-will to put things into perspective, it state clearly ukuthi abobani ama beneficiaries, ngifuna this estate ihambe kanjani.
All right, well, it will be interesting to hear from you right there at home, so please call us. The number is 011-714-6918 and 6919. You heard it. If perhaps you've got any dispute or want to dispute the court order, the first step is to go and write to the Master of the High Court, right? And then you have to check with the trustee, the trust fund. If you're not happy with the trust fund, especially Jabulani's family, what they can do is that they can go and dispute and write a dispute and all his needs to the Master of the High Court. Well, the number is 011-714-6918 and 6919. Go and send us those messages on Facebook, check our status update, and then go and drop your messages as well. We want to hear from you. We'll be coming back after this ad break. We're still discussing road accident fund payout that are put in a trust fund and the rights of claimants. My guests are Angelique Vesa from the Fiduciary Institute of Southern Africa. Sinayo Gift Xaba Oliqwetha, sibena no Bernard Apane, Master of the High Court. Remember that in order to be a part of our discussion right in studio, you can call us. The number is 011-714-6918 and 6919. Remember, early on I said you must send me those messages. So right about now, I'm going to check some of the messages you've sent me on Facebook. I can see right there I've got Nosmilo Sizophumelela Shelembe, who says inkinga ukuthi izolimazwa imoto bese abakwa road accident fund bekutshela ukuthi awuqualify kanti kuqualify abanjani. Okay, I think we covered that issue last week, but anyway, Sipesihle Oscar Kupuna says speech the trust uyakwazi iyakwazi the trust ukunceda ngokufunda if ever ngumuntu osafuna ukufunda ube ungumuntu obekhe wagaxeleka engozini. And then we've got John Minyela John, who says, I like to know more because ndino brother wam yaye uthole accident ngo 2012 but andiboni into icacayo nangona akafumani mali kuthe cwaka nje. I think most of these issues we covered them last week, especially on the issue of who claims, how the process works, how long the process takes, and also who gets to represent you, especially if you've got a legal practitioner. So izinto zamagqwetha nento kubana ngubani ufumana inkxaso phakathi road accident fund, I think izinto esesijonga last week. Kule kwasisiqendu sanamhlanje sijongene nabantu abathe bakwazi uclaima and then imali yabo kwatho ke ngoku sayithatha ifakwe phi ku trust fund. Those are the issues we're looking at today. So if you're one of those people, or maybe you know of somebody who claimed ku road accident fund but then they couldn't access the money immediately, they were told that there will be a trust fund set for them. Those are the issues we're covering today. But one of the major questions that somebody asked there, Angelique, is the issue of education. you were a minor when you got the funds. Let's say you were 16, you went through high school, you went to university, and then at 21 you feel, well, I still want to pursue another degree, but I don't have funds. Although I do qualify and I'm fully fit to go and get another job, but I want to get another degree. Do you consider such issues?
Definitely, because I mean the funds are there for the benefit of the beneficiary, and if they want to go to the university, the trust fund, if it's got sufficient funds, will definitely cater for those needs.
Is it?
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Okay, well, the number is 01171469118 and 6919. And remember that I said that you should call us. And right now it seems like we've got Monica who's calling us from Secunda. Hello, Monica.
Hello, Put.
Hello, Sisi. Kunjani?
Aphila kunjani?
Sikhona nathi akhonto. Uthi nombuzo wakho?
Umbuzo wami bekuyikuthi ngashonela ubaba bami ku-2011 ku-road accident kwasene yemoto. But manje ingabhalisa amaloya ngibhalise ngiliphule ngogogo. But manje angiboni iqhubekela phambili.
Okay, Monica, sisi khakho zama ukusukuma utshintshe iposition yakho. Your line is breaking down, so asikwazi ukukuva kakuhle.
Okay.
Yes, uthi kwenzeke ntoni? Utata ubhalise bani?
Utata waselela emgwaqweni.
Ngo-2011.
Yes. Bangibhalisa before kuphela inyanga. Aselekile. Kuze kube manje angatholi imali and ngihlezi ngibafonela ngibabuza ukuthi kana sibeka kanjani.
Ubani wambhalisa ubaba? Ubani wabhalisa ubaba sisi?
Wabhalisa mina washona umyeni wami. Yeah, mina ngunkosikazi wakhe.
Unkosikazi wakhe. So nanayo ummeli, did you have a lawyer perhaps that was representing you? Nanayo ummeli owahamba waya ku-road accident fund wayofuna le mali?
Mina ummeli anginaye. Just bafika labantu laba bathi bakaphule ngoba bangifika bangibhalisa la endlini.
Bathi baphuma phi? Bathi basuka phi mama abantu?
ePretoria.
Kweyiphi organization ePretoria?
Liphule Mukoka.
Mukoka?
Yes.
Okay. We'll just try and look at your issue, Sebonga Kulu. That was Monica who's calling us from Secunda. And right now it seems like we've got Boitumelo who's calling us from Thokoza. Boitumelo, welcome to the show. Yebo ma.
Okay.
Boitumelo? Okay.
Oh, this is me.
Hi, Boitumelo. Welcome to the show.
Yebo, Boitumelo Khanye from Thokoza.
Yes, mama. Yes.
Bengithi ngifuna ukwazi, I'm the victim here. Bengithole i-accident manje nge-1st of April. So since ngibukela le show le Yilungelo Lakho, so I was very interested ukuthi ngithole i-information because I've been called ama-lawyers amaningi engingawazi. So ngiyasaba ukuthi ubani ozongisiza through this kule procedure le. Ngilale e-union about 3 months now. Bekhane ngiphuma manje esibhedlela. So I think ilungelo lami ngangisiza through it because even now I can't even walk. Angikwazi kwenza next nje.
Ubusebenza before i-accident mama?
Yebo bengisebenza kamasipala e-Metropolitan.
So manje awusakwazi ukusebenza, usalimele usasekhaya?
Yebo ngisalimele ngisasekhaya and bengi-under i-contract by then.
Okay, so you've lost umsebenzi, definitely. Abameli laba bathi bafuna ukukusiza ukuthi uthole imali yakho ku-road accident fund?
Yes.
But abameli abaningi, that's the problem.
Yes, abantu abaningi abangifone and I don't know ukuthi ama-access bawatholi kanjani because bengisesibhedlela all along. Kade ngiphuma manje July.
All right, Boitumelo, thank you so much, Ceci, for calling us. Okay, we'll try to answer your issue. The practitioners who are right here in studio, they are legal gurus, so they'll try to attend to your issue. Here's Boitumelo's issue. She was injured, she was in hospital for 3 months. She just got out of hospital, but she's been getting calls from people. I think I'll throw this to you, Bennett. She's been getting calls from a number of lawyers. The first question is, how do they know that there was this person who claimed, probably, or who has to claim road accident fund? And they call them without their consent.
Yeah, obviously there are lots of things happening out there in the field whereby lawyers will get the information from the road accident fund.
So the Road Extend Fund has got a right. I'm the injured person, I'm a victim, I'm still recovering in hospital. They can dish my information to different lawyers, and then I'll have a flood of lawyers calling me saying that they want to assist me in claiming. Is that legal? Is that within the prescriptions?
That is not legal. I know that there is an act that has been enacted recently that that information should not be divulged. So obviously somebody did something which is not right there by divulging the information. But as I said, a lot of things happened in the field. So these lawyers obviously happened to get that information. That's why they're trying to assist that person. You will note that the Road Accident Fund also is calling upon people to come directly to the Road Accident Fund for them to claim their monies. I think a client should just go straight to the Road Accident Fund.
So she must ignore
all these calls
and then just go directly.
And go directly.
All right, the pros and cons?
And just to add on, to Mr. Apana, sure, there are practices that are unbecoming in the field. When I partner with the ambulances, those lawyers, we call them the ambulance chasers. Yes. So ngicabanga case kasi case efana naleyo.
So abantu be ambulance bashilo ukuthi kunomuntu olimele la.
Yes, it could be. It could be that, but I don't want to delve too much in that.
Those are things that happen.
Yes, but ngicabanga ukuthi kwenzeke into enjalo kusi. So into engam-advisa kuyo ukuthi nakafonelwa abantu who claim to be lawyers just to get details wabo and so forth, and then after lapho you can call law society just to basho i-authenticity yabo lawyers.
Or she can just go directly to
the
Road
problem
Accident Fund.
ukuthi uye ku-Road Accident Fund manje ukuthi
i-bargaining
power manje awubi nayo. So into i-advantage nakuba nomeli, you can argue your case ukuthi uthole i-amount that's suitable for our needs. The problem is if we are going straight to Road Accident Fund, that bargaining power.
Well, now, definitely coming from another lawyer, you would advise one to get a lawyer.
But I approach a law society just to confirm,
to get
and
fair,
check and
share.
record that firm of attorneys ukuthi abantu aba credible na and abantu abayazi into bayenzayo.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, maske sithi xa ke kulonda mbukeli ukhumbula ke the number is 01171469118 and 6919. Boy Dumelo, if you're watching, remember you wanted to know, you're getting all these calls. Well, these practitioners are advising that perhaps you get your own lawyer to represent you before you go to Road Accident Fund. Forget the other calls. Get your own lawyer that you'll be comfortable with, and then they'll represent you in your plead. 01171469118 and 6919. Yilungelo Lakho continues after this. Let's continue to our final segment as we try to wrap up today's discussion. One word of advice from each of you, especially to the person who's got their funds stored in the trust fund. What advice ongathubanike gift?
Okay, number one, trust establish with the benefit wena nama interest work. So if you feel that is not happening, if you are aggrieved ngalendlela trust yephethe ngayo ama funds with trust yakho, you can always approach the master of the High Court. You can do that direct if ngokomqondo kahle to do that, or you can have a lawyer ezokuassist ngaleyo nto leyo. But ama benefit trust ukuthi is flexible. So akunamthetho ukuthi nangabe i-court order ithi kuzohlala kanjalo. Amendwa, there can be variations as to terms the trust deed itself. So inongamnenkinga either approach the master of the High Court directly, or if
especially Jabulani's family, so they must go to the master of the High Court. What of advice? Your closing remarks?
I agree with Gift. The best thing I would recommend is that you approach your trustee, because it's a human person and it's not just somebody somewhere far. You need to get to know that person, have a relationship with your trustee so that they understand exactly what your needs are, and that because ultimately they have a responsibility to look after you or for your financial well-being. So build a relationship with your trustee so that you can obviously know that they are going to have your best interests at heart. Make sure you choose that your lawyer choose the right trustee who's going to look after you, because that's also important in terms of choosing the right trustee, to make sure that it's somebody with ethical values and so forth, to make sure that they're going to do the right things, because they are governed by law, but also, people can do all sorts of things. So make sure it's the right trustee. And then also, if they're unhappy, they can approach the Master of the High Court, and together they could maybe meet and, they can explain some of the matters to them. And they also have got access to all the financial statements and all the bank statements and everything else, because it ultimately is their money. The trustee only looks after the money on their behalf, but it is the beneficiary's money.
But can the beneficiary choose which trustee they want to be with? They'll say, well, I'm not happy with Jack's, trustee. I want gift's trustee. Is that permissible?
That's where once it comes to the communication between the lawyer and also the victim, because if the court order stipulates that a trustee needs to be appointed or trust, surely he would be able to give some insight and say, well, okay, I would rather this company or this person or that to be administering these funds opposed to that specific company. So yes, they should be able to contribute and add value in that conversation.
And adding value into that. Closing remarks, Bennett?
Yeah, the master is the supervisor of the trust. So obviously the trustees are answerable to the master. So if the beneficiary is not happy with the trustee, they can approach the master so that the master can investigate. The master has the power even to call for accounts and see how this administration is done. So I mean, if they come to the master, I think they will go right.
How accessible is the master of the High Court?
The master is always accessible. The patients can come to the master directly. They can call the master on 011-429-8000 at any time. We will be able to assist them.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us in Yilungelo Lakho. And hopefully, well, I'm sure by now that the person who's watching at home got all the information that they needed. Well, if you're watching right there at home and you want to know more on our topic, you can send us an email to consumer@sabc.co.za or any other issue that you'd like us to cover, and then we'll be able to take it from there. Let me thank our studio guests for making time to be with us. Please make sure that you join us again next Friday for another live consumer affairs topic. Tomorrow is Mandela Day, by the way. So 67 minutes of Mandela. I don't know how you're going to spend it, but I advise you to go out there into communities to assist people into, refurbishing buildings, to go to old age homes, just to assist communities. Do something. Your 67 minutes of Madiba into a good world. From me, Sipho Ganza, and the rest of the team, till next time, it's God bless and keep good.